and then share the screen. All right, you ready to get started, do you think?
Yeah, are we good on time, or is it a little bit past 10, just so we gave time
a
people
couple
to
of
jump
minutes
on?
past.
All right.
So we'll jump on and get started.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, well, welcome everyone to our webinar Wednesday, the Autoimmune Matrix, 6 astonishing facts that you need to know now. We know that your life is busy, and we want to thank you for taking the time to make your health and your wellness a priority. This webinar is near and dear to both of us, me especially, because at one point I was diagnosed with 6 different autoimmune diseases. So I understand on a personal level what the emotional, financial, and physical costs of living with an autoimmune disease are. And autoimmunity is like an epidemic in our country. Over 24 million Americans are affected by at least one autoimmune disease.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, like I found out, autoimmune diseases party in pairs. So once you have one, you are significantly more likely to have more than one. And you're typically undiagnosed for the average is 10 to 15 years before they will actually diagnose you. So we've got a lot to cover today, and we want to be respectful of our time together. So we're going to go ahead, jump in, and get started. But before we do, allow us to introduce ourselves for those of you who are new to Abundant Life Nutrition and Wellness Center. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jane.
And we are both board certified in holistic nutrition.
Like Kelly said earlier, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, because we're really excited to talk to you about it. We know that autoimmune diseases affect more than 24 million Americans. And in fact, most of us know someone who's living with an autoimmune disease or multiple ones. Just before we started the recording, I was saying I have autoimmune. I have 3 children with autoimmune. Kelly has autoimmune, her daughter has autoimmune. So we have a ton of people in our lives that we know. So today we're going to end up talking about the triangle of health and the matrix. And we are not talking about the Matrix, the Keanu Reeves movie, but actually,
although it's kind of awesome too.
It is awesome too. But we're going to talk about the health matrix. We're going to talk about the failure of modern medicine and the functional approach. We will talk about the chemical self, the physical self, the emotional self, and finally, we're going to give you action steps so that you can move forward in a better way. Some of the knowledge that we have gained over the years of working in this field to help leap start you and get you going in the right direction. So we're going to imagine health expressed as a triangle. At the base of it is all your genes. You have 23,000 genes. And each of these is inherited by your parents, and they're present for your whole life. However, they're not necessarily noticed until some other factor activates them. They can be turned on or off, a bit like a light switch, by what we can visualize as the points on this health triangle. So we have the chemical self, physical self, and mental self. And that's going to make more sense as we go through the components of this further, but know that as nutritionists, we view the whole triangle in its entirety. The triangle of health represents components of this autoimmune matrix. So it's understood that autoimmune diseases are caused by chemical, physical, and mental influences turning on certain genes. In other words, autoimmunity is bred by lifestyle choices and behavior. And it's also important to note that each one of these elements can interact with one another. So for example, if we're not tending to our physical self, then our chemical self will react, and vice versa. Unfortunately, that means that they can also be addressed in the same way. Our influences chemically, physically, and mentally can determine our health to be either compromised or optimized. And while that might sound a little bit scary, it's actually really empowering, and it can instill a lot of hope in those suffering from autoimmune conditions.
Yeah, just like anything in life, it's about balance and learning how to balance that out.
Yeah.
So most conventional doctors today will solely focus on chemical components using medication. There are endless ways to influence the body using this standard of care, such as artificially manipulating inflammation, vital hormones, and many of the other essential chemical processes within the body. This is all done with one common goal: covering up the symptoms. The irony is that you often end up trading one set of symptoms for another, never actually feeling symptom-free. This was my reality for 10 plus years. I spent chasing symptoms, trying to feel better. On the other hand, functional medicine practitioners address the origin of the disease to ensure a comprehensive and effective treatment. Covering up the symptoms should never be considered or disguised as a cure. And one of the examples I like to use is heartburn and acid reflux, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a conventional doctor is going to look at that and say, you have too much acid. So we're going to put you on an antacid or a PPI, proton pump inhibitor. But what that does is it affects your electron transport chain and your mitochondria. Your mitochondria is what make energy. So that's what we're talking about when we say trading one set of problems for another. When you're looking at functional health, you would say, okay, you've got heartburn and acid reflux. That's a symptom that something is not right with your digestion. We would look at that and say, likely this is a delayed food sensitivity. We would do testing, figure out what's happening in the gut. We would remove what needs to be removed so the body can heal. And your symptoms of heartburn and acid reflux go away. That's just a real life example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So functional medicine is centered around the patient versus the disease. Practitioners see health problems as a reaction to dysfunctions within the body rather than isolated issues. Okay, like I just used that heartburn example. Okay. We don't want to trade a symptom for another set of symptoms, okay? So we want to approach the body and support it so that it can heal. This approach is truly revolutionizing the medical field by empowering patients to better understand imbalances in their bodies, how these imbalances are affecting their health, and the solutions that are available to support the normal healing mechanisms within the body. Our bodies are intelligently and wonderfully designed, and if you give your body what it needs, it can do amazing things. I am a living testimony of being where I was told was not possible to achieve with my health. Just the body is limitless in what it can do when it's properly supported. When we apply this to autoimmune complications, people are astonished by the improvement in their health, if not complete recovery. And this has been my truth in my healing journey. And now Jane and I work with clients, helping them experience this truth for themselves in their healing journey.
The chemical components of health will be a large majority of what we discuss throughout this presentation. And it's for good reason, because in short, chemistry in this sense just refers to anything that we're putting inside our bodies. So that could be our food, vitamins, minerals, water, pesticides, preservatives, dyes, and much, much more. And then other environmental factors that you may have control over the exposure of include things like our bacteria, the parasites we encounter, the toxins that we see, the allergens and other microorganisms that we encounter every day. The common theme throughout the triangle of health is your control. Your chemical self is influenced by what can enter your body, and in turn, the chemical influence on your gene activation. So up next, we're going to explain some common chemical or nutrient deficiencies. In the words of Dr. Osborne, the importance of nutrition cannot be argued. It is absolutely critical. Essential nutrients found in food like vitamins, minerals, amino acids, carbohydrates, and fats are necessary for the proper functioning of your body. And each one of them has their own job, and everyone's needs are specific to their unique health. One thing to consider is the why behind these deficiencies. It might be due to not consuming enough of those foods to begin with, but it also might be impaired gut function or the result of an existing autoimmune issue.
Absolutely.
The most common nutrient deficiencies that we see in our practice include, but are not limited to, vitamin D, vitamin B12, zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, and believe it or not, water.
Yeah, protein sometimes is one of the top offenders too, because people might be either eating not enough protein or they're eating protein, but they can't digest it and absorb it.
Yes. Unfortunately, the conventional procedure for measuring these levels is serum testing, which is when you do a blood draw, and it can be very limiting as they don't take into account the fluctuations of vitamin content throughout the day or around our meals. But that being said, it's not a good indicator of the storage of nutrients. the sustained nutrient levels or the correct deficiencies after digestion. That's an important conversation to have with the doctor if that's the only test that's being offered to you. And later in this presentation, we will look at some other recommended testing procedures. But first, let's get a closer look at some of these deficiencies. Most immune cells have specific vitamin D receptors which help modulate immune activity and response. So it's no surprise that there are clear connections between autoimmune disease and this deficiency. A few of the most prominent include type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, and multiple sclerosis. Some common foods that are high in vitamin D are things like wild-caught salmon, tuna, eggs, and mushrooms. But the most abundant source of vitamin D is from direct sunlight. Most of the time we're advised anymore to limit our time in the sun, to wear UV blocking protectants. But because vitamin D is immunomodulatory, which means that it helps us in our proper immune system function, it doesn't really add up to not get any sunshine at all. Right. And Kelly is getting to be quite famous in our office for saying it doesn't matter how much vitamin D you take, if you don't go out in the sunshine, it won't get activated. Yeah. So
I was already thinking it in my head.
Even this morning, as we were like racing up to the deadlines of making sure we've got this presentation ready to go, it's like, I have to go for my walk. I have to go and get out in the sunshine and get that on my skin for a few minutes this morning before we get started, because partly I need my vitamin D. Yep. Common medications used to treat autoimmune diseases can actually cause vitamin and mineral deficiencies and in turn hinder the immune system. Now, you can see how that would truly be a counterproductive thing. Absolutely. I was just talking to a young girl the other day who's been 17 and put on oral contraceptives to help regulate her cycle. But that oral contraceptive is renowned for lowering several of your very important vitamins and minerals. Mm-hmm. You deserve to know if the medicine that you've been prescribed causes deficiencies, and you also deserve to be given the appropriate supplementation. I didn't take this girl off of her medication that the doctor prescribed, A, because we can't, but B, because don't necessarily need to work on that right now. We just prescribed a multi so that she would have the bare basics.
Fill in the gaps.
Fill in the gaps. Yep. So here are a couple of them that you might not have thought about. Blood pressure medication can cause vitamin B1 and B6 and vitamin C, magnesium, calcium, potassium, zinc, sodium, coenzyme Q10, and melatonin deficiencies.
Which is crazy because CoQ10 is for heart health. So if you're on something that's supposed to be protecting your cardiovascular system and it's causing deficiencies that actually endanger your cardiovascular system,
right?
And it feels like 1 + 1 does not equal 2.
If it lowers melatonin, you don't sleep well. And we know that if you don't sleep well, then your risk of heart attack and stroke go up exponentially.
Exponentially, yeah.
Common cholesterol medications cause vitamin A, B2, B6, B12, D, E, and K, and folate deficiencies, beta carotene, iron, and CoQ10. Mm-hmm. Diabetes medications can lower vitamin B12, folic acid, and CoQ10. For our common anti-inflammatory medications, we see vitamin A, C, D, B12, folic acid, potassium, iron, magnesium, and zinc deficiencies. And heartburn medications can lower vitamin D, B12, folic acid, beta carotene, calcium, iron, and zinc. Common hormone replacement medications lower vitamin B2, B6, B12, C, folic acid, magnesium, zinc, and selenium. And so this doesn't go for all the medications, they're general guidelines. But what we want you to take away from this is just simply being on a medication can leave you nutrient deficient, and nutrient deficiencies can lead you wide open to immune problems and autoimmune disease.
Yeah, and it just helps you understand when we're talking about treating the symptom, leading to changing or trading one symptom for a set of other symptoms. This helps you see how that process happens.
Yes.
So toxic overload is another very real concern. And unfortunately, it's not on people's radar the way it needs to be. We are exposed to toxins regularly, and many are often unavoidable. These include, but are not limited to, pesticides, both what you spray around your home and what is absorbed into the non-organic food that you consume in your diet, GMOs, air pollutants, which technically an air freshener is an air pollutant too, because you're just putting chemicals that happen to smell nice into your home and breathe that in. Heavy metals, chemical contaminants, those are just some of the toxins that we're regularly exposed to. Toxins can be the cause of many health complications like fatigue, muscle aches, joint pain, sinus congestion, postnasal drip, and headaches. It can also create bloating in the body, and it can lead to autoimmunity. So to reduce and prevent this toxic overload, there are many ways to minimize exposure. Things like choosing organic, non-GMO foods, using an air purification system rather than dumping chemicals that smell like something pleasant into your home, because your brain and your limbic system literally don't know what to do with that. Filter your water so you can make sure you're drinking clean water. Choosing toxic-free household items, toxic-free body care, hygiene, and beauty products all go a long way to bringing down that toxic load that you're putting into your body.
Yeah. When I used to, before I got into what we're doing now, I used to work at a retirement community. We had 400 independent living apartments there for the residents, and I would go over to visit my little residents. They'd be holed up inside their apartments that would be like 800 square foot apartments, and they would have 3 or 4 Glade plugins in that one space on full, and then be complaining that they were dizzy and having falls and not feeling well. And the amount of toxin, like I couldn't even stand to be in the space because I'm so sensitive to those fragrances anyway. But I would have conversations with them about, they're almost like little hand grenades attached to the wall. They're just about as detrimental to your health.
Well, yeah, and they have plenty of studies showing there is a direct correlation between scents like Glade plugins and depression. It just messes with your body. It's toxic.
Luckily, there are ways to monitor your nutrient deficiencies, toxic buildup, and physical imbalances. So consider these tests when you're working with your functional health practitioner, as they are designed to assess your individual nutrient status. The first one is lymphocyte proliferation, because this test looks for nutrient storage versus what is simply found in the blood and serum. It's a more concrete measure in the sense that it doesn't change as frequently as the results of other tests do. Iodine loading test measures your iodine status and possible deficiencies, very important with anything going on with the thyroid. 25-OHD is an effective way of measuring your vitamin D levels. An iron panel with ferritin. The important part here is the ferritin, because that is the one that measures your storage levels of iron. And you have to request it because most doctors don't know to make that their primary avenue of iron testing. A CBC will be your complete blood count. That's the most comprehensive blood test for assessing anemia and the functioning of many of the systems within your body. We can look at that and really see a good baseline of nutrient deficiencies. And then homocysteine is a marker for the nutritional status of vitamin B2, B6, B12, and folate. Lastly, we're going to look at hemoglobin A1c, which detects your average blood sugar over the last 3 months. C-reactive protein, which is an identifiable marker of inflammation, and fasting insulin, because that insulin affects the body in a number of different ways. But above all, this test measures the amount of stress on the pancreas based on the amount of sugar that is in the bloodstream.
Right, which is concerning and important. I was just reading a study the other day that pancreatic cancer is actually on the rise. To properly diagnose nutrient deficiencies or most health complications in general, it is important to rule out any issues associated with gut function. If your gut is not functioning properly, it is unlikely that your body will be able to absorb the nutrients. Therefore, eating the right foods or taking supplements will go unnoticed, and you may become frustrated with the lack of improvement. I would also add there that the quality of your supplements matter. If you're buying something over the counter, it has a lot of binders and fillers in it. It's not going to be bioavailable, and it's not going to be in therapeutic range. So you're going to get really limited results. We are really familiar with that saying, you are what you eat, but in reality, you are actually what you can absorb. So some of the major functions of the gut include digestion, immune response, and fun fact, 70% of your immune system is actually in the gut, nutrient absorption, which is kind of touched on that, hormone regulation. Again, if you aren't absorbing the nutrients needed to make the hormones in your body, then your body cannot make the hormones. Vitamin production, detoxification, and mood management. Just like with hormones, if you aren't absorbing the nutrients needed to make neurotransmitters, your body cannot make neurotransmitters. Above all, the gut's sole purpose is to ensure that you are absorbing the good and excreting the bad. If this balance is disrupted, a major health complication is going to occur. There is 10 times the amount of bacteria in our body than our own cells, and the majority of them are housed within our digestive system. That saying, gut health is truly the gateway to health for so many reasons. Fortunately, our gut has defenses or firewalls that help it to properly do its job. These include gastro-associated lymphoid tissue, or GALT. This is the gut's immune system. Like we just said, 70% of our entire immune system is here. Tight junctions. These are small proteins that are responsible for holding the gut cells together. So when you've got something like leaky gut or celiac, those junctions that are supposed to be tight start opening up, and we call that open junction, which is what leaky gut is. There is Mucosal Iga. It is otherwise known as Immunoglobulin A, and it is the antibody considered our first line of defense against toxins. There's friendly bacteria. As we mentioned, we have more bacteria in our bodies than we do our own cells. That bacteria can communicate with the GALT, warning it of potential danger. Stomach acid, another reason you end up in trouble if you're on antacids and proton pump inhibitors long-term, because stomach acid is essential for the digestion and the absorption of nutrients. All of these barriers together combine to promote a healthy gut and in turn, healthy immunity. These components have been proven significantly damaging to the gut. The standard American diet, we joke that the abbreviation is SAD, and it is a sad diet because it welcomes in disease and dysfunction. Chemicals such as pesticides, preservatives, heavy metals, food dyes, GMOs, glyphosate, and microbial transglutaminase, infections like bacteria, viral, parasitic, or even yeast overgrowth, gluten and other grains, food allergies and delayed food sensitivities, excessive medication use, aggressive exercise, chronic stress. These are just some of the things that damage the gut. These are some of the main proponents that directly result in leaky gut syndrome, which, like we kind of touched on, is a harmful condition that causes a plethora of health complications because you can't absorb. Leaky gut is where, like I just demonstrated, those tight junctions between the intestinal cells begin to open up due to the proteins breaking down from agitation. When this happens, that bacteria, chemicals, toxins, they can leak outside of the digestive tract and eventually enter the bloodstream. This signals a flood of immune antibodies, and it increases your allergic reactions and your delayed food sensitivities. This cycle continues and ultimately leads to autoimmunity. Basically, leaky gut is causing your body to attack itself because it thinks your body is not self. It's important to know what is specifically irritating your gut. Gut health is very individualized. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. Up next, we're going to just get into a little bit more detail of some of the common culprits.
So if you're on medication, it's crucial to be aware of the potential risks. Some of those include antibiotics destroying the good bacteria that you need for digestion. Kelly says, Kelly has a lot of sayings in our office, but she will say it's like napalm to the gut, right? It just clears everything out, good and bad.
No discrimination.
It can cripple vitamin synthesis. It can increase your risk of yeast overgrowth. The topic that's near and dear to my heart is mental health. It cripples your ability of your good bacteria to make neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine inside your gut. Common pain medication can erode the mucosal lining of the stomach and small intestine that contributes to intestinal permeability. Acid reflux medications block stomach acid production, and in turn, that hinders digestion and absorption and leads to nutrient deficiencies. And antidepressants negatively affect the neurotransmitters in the gut, believe it or not. Now, gluten was the first medically proven cause of autoimmunity in 1952 by Dr. Willem Dickey. And since then, plenty of research has backed that up. Gluten allergies and sensitivities have been increasingly more common, and recent research has been implying that gluten can even cause adverse health effects in people that don't have those conditions. And I see that all the time. Wheat is a high FODMAP food, so it can cause a lot of digestive distress, even if you don't have technically have a sensitivity to it.
Yes.
Now, why does this cause so many problems in autoimmunity? It's because of a protein that it produces called zonulin. That zonulin directly affects the lining of the intestine. Hello, leaky gut. So the antibodies that are initially produced to attack gliadin, one of gluten's building blocks, leaches out of the GI tract and into the bloodstream, and the body reacts by secreting inflammatory chemicals as a defense mechanism. However, the body becomes unable to differentiate between the gluten or the invader and the body's healthy tissue, and that's what we start to call autoimmunity.
Yes.
Some of the most commonly ignored allergens include food allergies, medications, surgical allergies, chemical allergies, mold allergies, and allergies in any of the additives of the things that are listed above. All of these untreated allergies can cause serious health complications, including autoimmune disease. Unfortunately, there's so many ways these days to test for all of those things, whether it's skin tests, blood tests, lung function tests, patch testing, or food challenges, often in the form of elimination diets. Kelly and I are far more proponents of doing food sensitivity testing, because taking out and eliminating things from your diet is such a long process. Things need to be out for a minimum of 28 days before you reintroduce them. And doing that one food group at a time is really, really tedious. It can take you years to get figured out.
Well, and I did an autoimmune protocol for close to 3 years. I was on a super restricted diet and I still wasn't getting better. I did gut testing and I found out I was reacting to onion, garlic, kale, blueberries, celery. These are things that are never taken out of an autoimmune protocol because they're healthy foods. So this is why Jane and I are so serious about there is no one size fits all answer. What works for me is not going to work for you, and it's not going to work for you, because we need to know what's happening with your biochemistry and your physiology and your gut.
Yes.
So common heavy metals and elements include lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, fluoride, bromine, and chlorine. They are all incredibly dangerous to your health and to your immunity. Unfortunately, we're exposed to all of these in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and even the food that we eat. Most alarmingly, toxic metals affect our health. One of the scariest ways is they compete with beneficial minerals that your body needs at the binding sites in your body. This leads to deficiencies regardless of your daily intake, because the binding sites are no longer open to receive those minerals. Your exposure to many of these toxins is often gradual, and therefore the accumulation can be left unnoticed. It's not like it just shows up one day. It's a gradual process, and it's over extended periods of time. Fluoride consumption has become increasingly more prominent as an issue. It's often put in public water, and it's encouraged in our dental routines. My dentist always looks at me like I am being negligent when I tell them no fluoride for my kids, but I understand what it does to the endocrine system. And because I've got autoimmune and my kids do, I need to protect their endocrine system. Research even suggests that this mass exposure can contribute to autoimmune thyroid disease, brain damage, and the displacement of iodine. This is the reality we've seen in our family and with so many clients. We want to point out that iodine is especially important for thyroid function, whether or not it's autoimmune related. It's important not only for the function, but also the production of T4, the thyroid hormone thyroxine. inhibiting the production and maintenance of essential thyroid hormones has truly dangerous and disabling consequences. So if you're not familiar with the way thyroid works, you need to have T4 to convert to T3, and that is the active available form that gives you energy. So if you can't produce T4, you can't make T3, and your energy goes down. If the thyroid does not operate properly, many health complications start occurring, like adrenal dysfunction. So many people have adrenal dysfunction, fatigue, like we just talked about, depression, weight gain, muscle aches, brain fog, low libido, and autoimmunity. You guessed it.
Our health is truly a combination of all these things that we put into our bodies, between the quality of the food that we eat, our exposure to toxins, and our body's ability to detoxify efficiently. So our chemical makeup is directly affected by all of those things. So we encourage everyone to work with a team of functional health practitioners to ensure that you're receiving the proper testing, that you're getting a comprehensive healing strategy that really includes cleaning up your environment and your food and your diet, and the support that you deserve then to take control of your chemical health. The physical component of health is a lot more straightforward and a much shorter section that we're going to talk about because it's something we confront every day. It encompasses our physical activity, the integrity of our muscles, and quite literally all of our body mechanics. So there is a common misconception that as we age, our health naturally declines. We hear it all the time from doctors that the aging process is synonymous with our bodies breaking down and becoming sick. But that is very, very wrong. Instead, our choices are what facilitate that breakdown. As we age, we end up exercising less. It's not always due to being unable to exercise. It's a choice that we make because we get busy, and it is justified not to be as active. Now, I do see, and this isn't a blanket statement 100% of the time. There are times when catastrophic things happen and it does impede your ability to exercise.
For sure.
And we know that autoimmunity slows down your physical capabilities, like your new 100% might be 80%, but there are so many plans and programs out there that are designed to help you with your physical exercise and to be at least get some exercise. And it's important because a sedentary lifestyle breeds this dangerous cycle of health issues, including muscle atrophy. And that increases our joint pressure, it decreases our flexibility, and it escalates our pain. And then our pain causes us to continue not to exercise, which leads to more muscle loss and further joint restriction and pain. So can you guess the solution to all of this?
I can.
Just get moving, move your body, find an exercise routine that feels right for you. It's one of the most important health decisions that you can make. If you're currently in pain, however, you must start slow and work with a professional to guide you through a routine that will not worsen any complications.
Yes.
In the last few, it's just one of these like vulnerable moments. In the last few years, I've had increasing back pain, and I still move. I still go, walk every single day. But this back pain has just been getting worse and worse and worse. And I finally went somewhere to go and get some input on why this was going wrong. And I have like stage 3 spinal stenosis, which is one of the, it's impacting the nerves and causing pain down my legs. And the more you read on that, the more it just says, don't stop moving. Like the worst thing you can do for this is stop moving. But I had to get help from somebody who could professionally tell me the right exercises that wouldn't aggravate my back pain and would help me to increase my core strength, because I sit at my desk an awful lot. That would help me to increase my core strength so that I don't have pain. And in the last probably 3 months, I've gone from being a 7 or 8 on the pain scale every day to being a 1 on some days. So it's important to get back to getting moving and getting the help that you need from somebody who's really skilled in that area and can help you to do it without injuring yourself further.
Yeah. Nobody wants an injury.
No. So to introduce that physical fitness into your life, just remember some of these tips. Start where you are, make small changes, determine your individualized goals and create a routine, and don't give up if you don't see immediate results, because health takes time.
Yes.
Some of the ideas to get moving would be things like biking instead of driving, scheduling in a post-dinner walk, dancing around when you're doing the housework, taking on more active hobbies, taking the stairs whenever you go. We go to GCU to teach twice a year, and it's on like the 3rd floor of this massive building. And
we take the stairs.
We take the stairs, and we're all huffing and puffing by the time we get up there.
And then we get in the classroom, we're like, woo, we have to pull it together. That was a lot of stairs.
Yeah. Park further away, also at GCU, not a choice.
GCU, not a choice.
Park further away in those parking lots. So let us know in the chat how you schedule movement into your days.
For me, I love starting my day with a walk. My husband and I will wake up early and go for a walk. And then depending on what our evening routine looks like, we'll go for a walk after dinner, which we've talked about. That's just so good for so many reasons. It helps with that last meal of the day insulin response. And it's just a great de-stressor for the evening. Yes. So I'm looking forward to hearing how everybody else works that into their day.
Yes.
So now we're going to talk about the emotional component. And Jane knows this is like my favorite because it's just, it matters and it's just ignored or overlooked so often. We are talking about, when we say emotional component, we're talking about your connection to yourself or how in tune you are with yourself and your body mentally and emotionally. This is just as important as the rest of the triangle. So it really makes me sad that so many people have this totally off their radar. You are what you think. Remember that. If you do not believe that you can recover, it is likely that it will become your reality. On the other hand, if you are hopeful and positive, your ability to overcome health complications increases substantially. At the beginning of this webinar, I told you guys that I am where I was told I could not get. I was told by doctor after doctor and specialist after specialist that this was just the hand I was dealt and I had to deal with it. If I would have believed that, that would have become my reality. But something deep inside me felt that that was not true and that it was off, and that I'm a believer and I believe that God would not have created me to live such a limited life. Okay, so your thoughts will make or break you. Okay, not just your belief systems, but your thoughts. This goes for your internal dialogue as well. We've talked about this in our other webinars, but we're going to talk about it again now because it is super important. What you think and what you say to yourself has a direct impact on your body. Negative thoughts, emotions, and internal dialogue promote an acidic cellular environment, which is prone to disease and dysfunction. Positive thoughts, emotions, and internal dialogue promote an alkaline cellular environment, which is resistant to disease and dysfunction. Most of us are truly unkind and unloving to ourselves on the inside. We don't give ourselves grace and we don't give ourselves mercy. We would never treat someone we love the way we treat ourselves. So why do we treat ourselves like this? Why do we treat ourselves like this and then wonder why our body is struggling? Think about that enormous disconnect for just a moment. This was a big piece of my healing journey. I had dialed in my diet. I was doing all the self-care things, but I was still dealing with symptoms. It truly was not until I addressed this component that things finally started to shift and the rest of the healing happened for me. We see this with our clients in our practice also. This is not unique to my journey. This component cannot be ignored or neglected if you want to truly heal. Also, it's important that you feed your passions, try new things. Newness is one of the 7 needs for happiness. Spend time with the people that you love. Be present, not in the same room, on a screen. Actually interact with them, enjoy them, right? Find things that make you feel relaxed. Manage your stress. And the most important thing of all, don't forget to love yourself through this healing process and be gentle to your body because it's working really, really hard.
Speaking as an introvert, it is okay to be in the same space with somebody with a book, you know.
Not all the time. Not all the time. It's balance.
And I know,
right?
I'm
It's
teasing
balance.
a little bit.
As somebody who is
my
not
little
an
introvert.
I have times where I need to definitely withdraw and
Yeah.
recharge too, but I am talking about the average night where everyone is in the room together for family time, but they're all in their own little isolated bubbles. Managing your stress is super important. Being in a chronic state of stress truly breeds disease, especially autoimmunity and inflammation. In order to manage your stress, you have to be aware of your stress. This is where being in tune with your body, paying attention to your body and listening to your body come in. Everyone manages their stress a little bit differently, but to add some relief into your life, you can try things like this. You can try implementing some deep breathing. That's actually one of my favorites. Have fun exercising, practice yoga, get a massage, also one of my favorites. Create a meditation practice, make art or do something creative, such a great outlet, and spend time with loved ones. Do you have any ideas that you would add to this list? For me, it would definitely be spending time outside in nature. Nature is like medicine for me. I can feel the stress kind of melt away. I start breathing more deeply. My shoulders kind of come down and I just feel like, everything is going to be okay.
First and foremost, get the proper testing done to identify your body's unique needs and then treat them accordingly. Luckily, there are other things you can do to amplify your health now. So here are some of these additional action steps that you can take to win the fight against autoimmune complications and take control of your health. You can try intermittent fasting. I would have a conversation with a healthcare professional before you get engaged in that, because it's not the right fit for everybody.
Especially if you have blood sugar dysregulation or if you're not progressed enough in your healing.
Yes, but giving yourself 12 hours at least break between your last meal of the day and the first meal of the next day gives your insulin response time to settle down, and it gives your body time to rest, digest, and heal.
Yep.
Cutting out all grains is sometimes helpful for people struggling with autoimmune issues. The dairy, also problematic. Legumes, which are your beans, your nightshades, those are the foods in the family like bell peppers, potatoes, tomatoes.
Tomato. That just happened in real life. That's amazing.
And some of those, what's the other one? The purple eggplant.
Eggplant.
Yes, and your processed foods, they can come out as well, or should come out, regardless of whether you have autoimmune or not.
Yep.
Change your diet to contain easy to digest whole foods. You can try the elimination diet or take the testing to figure out what you've got going on with your specific chemistry.
Yeah, our thought is why guess when you can know.
Yeah. Stay adequately hydrated. Make sure you're eating enough fiber. You need about 35 grams of fiber in a day. Take a quality probiotic, and for most people, we recommend a spore-based probiotic. Digestive enzymes help you to break down the foods inside your body. Avoid any unnecessary antibiotics, because the number of times that if you just go to urgent care, they will write you a prescription for antibiotics, even if it's viral and the antibiotic isn't going to help. So be choosy about when you take those. Detoxify on a regular basis, sauna, detox baths, sweating, running, breathing, peeing and
drinking
pooping.
Water. Yep.
Those are all the ways. Practice your deep breathing exercise. Keep some good hygiene practices in your home. Exercise regularly, connect with other people. Be sure that you're getting enough sleep. Rest when you need it. Find a hobby that you love and do what makes you feel healthy and happy.
I love that list.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to experience the Autoimmune Matrix, 6 astonishing facts that you need to know. Our last piece of advice is do not pick and choose throughout this process. All of these steps are necessary to truly experience productive, holistic healing. Also, remember that there's no perfect approach for everyone. Get properly tested and listen to your body. Your situation is unique to you. It's not going to be what my journey was, Jane's, or anybody else's.
And it is a journey. I say, we say on there, don't pick and choose, but also don't start everything at once. You need a plan. It's taken us years to figure out some of the steps that we've gone through. So it's okay if your journey is a little bit slower, but just get moving and going on the journey.
There's no better day than today to start.
Yep.
It's like planting an avocado tree, right?
Yeah.
I thought that 20 years ago, and now I'd have fruit.
Right.
Yep. Autoimmunity dysfunction is rampant, like we talked about, and we understand how to create a clear path to wellness. Since we care about this so much and it is so near and dear to our hearts, as a thank you, we want to give you this opportunity to do our comprehensive nutritional assessment. This comprehensive assessment not only identifies your unique dysfunctions, where you need support and establish priorities to your individual healthcare needs. It's a great way to get a snapshot of really what's going on in your body and where you should probably focus first. This assessment is normally valued at $150, but because you attended today, we want to offer you a discount of $53, bringing your cost down to $97. This discount is going to be valid for the next 48 hours, and our calendar fills up pretty quickly. So we would encourage you to register for that as soon as possible if you would like a clear starting point and an overview of what's really going on in your body.
Yeah, and that assessment gives you an hour of time with either Kelly or myself to have a real discussion about the things that you have going on.
Yes.
So we are going to move into a time of question and answer now. But before I do, just know that if you're struggling with autoimmune, either subclinical or full blown, and you're not where you want to be in terms of how you feel and what your quality of life is, we're here to chat with you. We can take a look at what you're struggling with and discuss how we can come alongside you and support you in that healing journey. After this is all done and we've uploaded the recording, I will send that out to each one of you as well. So does anybody, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and then we will answer any questions that you might have.
Yep.